So it's Friday, August 23rd, 2024, and I thought I should record some of this so I would have I'd have a record of it at the very least. So I'd be able to say that it did happen. It really did happen. And so I would have to start with um, start from the most recent, you know, the revelations that come, the epiphanies, the remembering as it is, it comes almost on a daily basis, and it's pretty amazing. But let's talk about something that just recently I had coalesced, and then I thought it was important that I really it needs to be documented for my own sake. So at some point, I don't feel like I'm crazy. So I've come to this realization now that because of all of these ideas that I had based on experiences that had occurred in my perceived past, where the first incident was the first time that I ever took LSD, and there was a moment where I was I existed in this place. I was on a beach. It was March, I believe. I think I was 17 years old. So, 1992. And at some point, then an aspect opened in my field of vision, in my reality, and it was, no words were said, but it was basically that I it's gonna be okay. It was okay that we're all one. We're all one. And I remember saying that we're all one. We're all one. Um, and I dismissed it for many, many years. And then in June of 2024, so about 2 months ago, I experienced what could only be described as a spiritual awakening. And in that moment, lots of things happened. And there were, it was an amazing amount of, there were synchronicities occurring. There were manifestations occurring from outside in, or now I have a better understanding of it. My perception of it was that it was coming from the outside in, and in reality, it was coming from the inside out. So I don't. It's it's so interesting. So fast forward 2 months later, and I have been essentially immersed in this every moment, free moment that I have, and I mean free moment. Not, I'm doing my absolute best not to take away from anything that's been going on in my life. Like, there are life circumstances that have been occurring. Some of them not great, some of them very difficult, but working through it nonetheless. So what ended up happening was there was a let's start now. I'll go now. What my understanding of all of this is. So, how did it change my core perception of what reality is? To say completely would be, um, it would not be totally accurate, in that conceptual terms don't really encapsulate the experience and the facets of it, which are many, many. So I've been watching all these videos on manifesting and all that, and that, I honestly, what I originally thought of that idea was a bunch of like woo-woo kind of, mostly, I don't know why I only see it this way, but because now I know why I only see it this way. Women on the internet, on YouTube, telling other women that they can manifest, they can manifest whatever is on their Pinterest board or whatever the case may be. And the fundamental nature of what they're saying is not incorrect. They heard it somewhere else. It's you can kind of have a sense of people, and my intuition is much different now than it used to be, and you get this sense of them that they heard it somewhere. They don't necessarily believe it, but they feel like there's a bunch of gullible other people out there that will listen to what they have to say. And so you have to kind of sort through sort the wheat from the chaff. So you end up finding a lot of individuals who talk about it in very practical ways, and the way that it was explained to me is a way that I know that it works in life, how it works. I understand how it works now. And that was the electromagnetic principle of thought and emotion. And so because I suffered from anxiety for years, it's like debilitating anxiety attacks that would render me useless for quite some time. And so so I know that the way that my mind works is that I can generate a thought. Okay, the thought is the electrical aspect of it, and then the emotion is the magnetic aspect of it. And so as I had that thought of anxiety, okay, that's the thought, and then this magical imaginary winding is the emotion. As I would attach an emotion to it, I would continue to wind that emotion around the thought, and I would wind and wind and wind and wind. And the more I would wind, the more inertia that thought had, because now it's powered, it's supercharged with emotion. Whereas it had only started out as a thought. It wasn't real. It never was real to begin with. But once I combined the emotion with it, it became, there's no other way to, it became real. My brain did not differentiate between that and an actual person trying to get into my home with a gun shooting at me. My brain just didn't differentiate between those things. So, and it eventually, I would, through certain means, I would self-talk, time. Eventually, it would lose its charge. It would lose its grip on me. But it would return. And over the course of time, they only got worse. So I had created this really rich environment, a really robust environment to manifest the thought, emotion, dynamic relationship. So that's how it worked in my life. It was a real thing. And you have all these, if you have ever had an anxiety, a panic attack or anxiety attack, which lasts more than 20 minutes or 30 minutes, if you have it last a week, then you'll know what that's like, where you've wound and the environment that you've created is just so rich and ready and fertile for that to be bred in, and you birth that baby and then you take care of it. I don't know why my frame rate's going weird. We've settled down. So when people would talk about this manifesting thing, I was like, whatever. That's just some girl on Pinterest. Sorry, Pinterest, but some woman trying to get a few thousand subscribers. And then I found other people who were talking about it in a very practical way, neuroscience way, in a neuroscientific way, in a way that was talked about the physics of quantum physics. People talking about vibration, frequency, and energy, those types of things. Those things I understand. The vibration, the frequency, and the energy aspect of it, I completely understand that. Now, I understood it then too, but because my perspective was so skewed that I was on one trajectory. I was on the one trajectory. I felt like I was never gonna be able to get off that line. That train that was it. That was the train I was riding until the bitter end. So when I started hearing individuals talk about, like people like Neville Goddard, and others, there's a lot of good people out there that are really disseminating this really truly ancient knowledge. The more I looked at it, the more I understood that was the case. That not only did I believe it, but I absolutely knew it to be true. Knew it to be true. Because I had experienced it. Not because I was like brainwashed or I want to believe it because, ooh, maybe you can get me $1 million. Maybe it can. Maybe it can. And I believe it probably will. Probably more. But that's not the point. That's not the point of it. The point is that I had this idea because we get to choose the trajectory of our reality based on our thoughts coupled with the emotion. So thought and emotion, which I already know to be true based on my experience with anxiety, but the physical symptoms, all the things that go along with it. I knew it to be true. There's no way it can't be true. And so where I'm going to leave this is, for now, is that it is an absolute just miracle that I lived through all those moments in life to make it to this point. And now I have this knowledge, and it's odd to have this life now. But I do love it. So, till next time.